What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Today is a super awesome and kind of scary day because today we're going to be finally molding the fenders on my wide body Audi S5 behind me. If you guys haven't seen, I've been wide bodying my S5. It's been turning out absolutely incredible, and we finally made our way to the back fenders, which will be molded. This video is just going to be kind of like a how-to mold your wide body fenders. There isn't a ton of stuff out there on this, so I figured I'd make a video during the install to just kind of show you guys how I'm going to do it. I am also very new to this. This is my first time ever installing a wide body kit, let alone a molded one. So it's going to be a learning experience for me as well, but I've done some research and I think I have everything I need, and I think I know what I need to do. Just to give you guys a quick glance at the car, so the front fenders are replacement fenders as well as the front bumper, and then these back fenders get molded to the car. So right now I just have them held up by a couple of screws just to hold it in place. Fitment is absolutely beautiful. So as you can see, first thing I did was sand down to bare metal. You really need to get down to your bare metal so that your adhesive can bond the panel to the car. Let's go ahead and check out everything you will need. So for the most part, this is everything you're gonna need. You have your adhesive, which is a 3M panel bonding adhesive. Pretty heavy duty stuff. Once it bonds and cures, those panels will not be coming off. Next, we have this Evercoat, basically Bondo. Pretty self-explanatory. When we're molding the fenders, we're going to be using Bondo to fill the body lines. But before we throw the Bondo down, we have this glass light, which is essentially Bondo with fiberglass strands in it for extra strength. Once our adhesive cures, we will start throwing this down as a base layer, stiffen up the body there, get rid of that body line, and then we will finish off with the Bondo. We have our flexible spreaders for the Bondo and that as well, obviously. And then I have these here self-tapping screws, which I'll show you exactly what these are going to be used for. So as you can see right now, I have just a couple in here. I have one here, and then one on the bottom there. So once we actually put all the adhesive on the back of this panel here and we stick it on, there's no real way to clamp it down other than putting a ton of screws in here to really clamp it down to make sure it's sealed all around. So that's what you're going to need those self-tapping screws for. You also might want one of these because it does get pretty dusty when you sand down your fenders, and it's also going to get dusty when you sand down the Bondo afterward. Speaking of which, you will need an orbital sander because you're going to be doing a lot of sanding, and doing that by hand will be very difficult. In addition to that, you will also need some sandpaper along the lines of 220, I would say, maybe even a little bit higher. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and start bonding this panel to the car. Alright, so once your surface is completely sanded, you have your fender off. Pretty much all we have left to do before we start gluing the panel is to just wipe this down. I'm just going to use some isopropyl alcohol and a rag. Wipe it clean just so there's no extra residue on there, and then we'll start gluing. Alright guys, and just like that, our panel has been bonded. Now we have to wait 24 hours for this to dry. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I basically put a ton of screws in here all the way around to clamp it down. There's no real other way to clamp it down and get a good seal, but as you guys can see here, the seam is pretty perfect. So time to wait 24 hours for this to dry, and then we can pull all these screws out and then start sanding this down here and body filling. Alright, it's been 24 hours. Our adhesive has cured, so now we're going to go ahead and pull out all these screws and start actually body working this so we can get rid of this little seam here. Our next order of business is going to be to sand down this fender so that this little seam we got here, basically make that as flat as we possibly can, and then we'll start body working. Now that we've got this seam sanded down pretty good, we'll go mix up our glass light, which is the Bondo with the fiberglass in it. That guy right there on the right. And we'll start applying it here. So when putting your hardener in, it basically says to just go from end to end with one long strand. Not the most precise thing, but I think this will do. Let's mix it up and then start throwing it on the car. Alright, after our first coat of Bondo with the fiberglass in it, got it sanded down pretty nice here. Filled this gap a little bit, but we're going to do at least 2 more coats to fill that gap. Same process. Lay it down, wait like 15 minutes for it to dry, and then hit it with the sander. We'll do that, and then we'll move on to the regular Bondo. Alright, so here we are after 2 coats of the glass light Bondo sanded, and it looks pretty good. Basically, your best judgment is going to be feeling for any high spots or low spots, and there's definitely a couple here and there still, but for the most part, we got the big gap filled. So now we're gonna move on to the other Bondo. Same exact process, just the regular Bondo is a bit easier to sand down, which is good, because this stuff you kind of have to go at it for a little while with the sander. But now we're gonna move on to the regular Bondo and use like a sanding block instead of the orbital so that we can actually get it super, super precise. Alright, we are pretty much done sanding this. It's actually very, very smooth. There is a couple of little humps and bumps here that I'm not sure if they'll actually show through. In order to find out if they'll actually kind of show through when I have the car wrapped or painted, I am going to spray this with primer, and that should show the reflections of any humps or bumps. Good thing about the primer is it is sandable, so if you do see something that it's not perfect to you, then you can just sand down the primer, throw in a little more filler, and then prime it again. Kind of tedious, kind of a pain in the butt, but this does need to be perfect. Can't have any humps or bumps along the way here. So I think we got it just about perfect. If you guys are wondering what I was sanding with, these are these great little like sanding blocks. They're super cheap. It's like they're like $1 a piece. So I tried with 120 at first, but most of it I did with 220 because this stuff's very easy to sand. That being said, I'm gonna try to prime this and then we'll see how it looks. Alright, now that we got her out in the sun, it's kind of hard to tell still, but there is definitely a couple of spots where I can see just like lines here almost. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but you can see the line here where the Bondo kind of meets the original body here. So definitely going to need a little more sanding. That's why this primer is great for actually determining if you got it perfect. So I'm going to have to sand down this side a little more, work at it. This is not something that is very quick, guys. This is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of perfecting. I spent already tons of time on this one fender, haven't even touched the other side, and like you guys saw, we're still not there perfect. But if you guys really want that absolute perfect result, you really just need to go back and forth between Bondo and the primer and continuing to sand it and make sure you have that absolutely seamless body line. With that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. Really hope you guys found this helpful. This was a learning experience for me as well. Like I said, I've never done this before. So far, coming out pretty amazing. Definitely gonna have to do a lot more sanding to it just to get it perfect, but all in all, I think it did a fairly good job. If you guys have not been following the build on this Widebody S5, definitely go check out some of the other videos. This car is absolutely awesome, and we're getting towards the end here. We only have a few more things, just our side skirts and then our add-ons like our lip and our diffuser, but we're getting close, guys. The car looks absolutely awesome. I will have everything I use linked down in the description box below. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button. Have any questions or comments, let me know down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me, guys. Thank you so much. Peace out.